around and disregard it. Sweep you off the ground, show you what heart is. Standing strong and proud, nothing can knock it. Let's get it started, it's the hardest. Talk around, don't disregard it. Sweep you off the ground, show you what heart is. Standing strong and proud, nothing can knock it. Let's get it started. Yeah,
get your boots ready. We're about to go on a trip where we wrestle, nobody settling or calling it quits. You're here for the grit, betcha this stuff is amazing. You're stumbling, welcome to the bump in the apron. Step into it, the hardest part of the ring. Here to bring fun, yeah, and this art he is king. It's the best thing, making sure you don't tap out. Don't go soft with the hardest podcast out. And it's not just another one, it's clear. Off the rest, in this content, none contest. Take the nonsense off the steps. You know it's nothing but pure gems when it's coming off the chest. Get it? Now it's time to sit and relax. Get your mind blown away, ain't no skipping this track. Have you paying more attention, no listening gap. Get everything I ever wanted, no giving it back. Yeah.
Ooh, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the Apron Bump Podcast. I'm your host, the hardest part of the ring, also known as Kyle. And man, oh man, we got something special for you today, folks. Ring of Honor, Do or Die, 2003. So if you've been listening to my past couple Ring of Honor shows, you'll know that I've been covering multiple shows and all encompassed in one episode. Reason being is because there'll be multiple shows in a month. So if that's something that occurs, we'll kind of take a more general look at both shows and kind of just fudge pack it all into one episode. But in this case, the month of May, only one show, barely. It's like the 31st of May. Do or Die 2003. And that, you know what, man? It's definitely a show that deserves its own episode because, man, we got fucking John Walters. We got Iceberg. Slim J, who weirdly just appeared on AEW Dark. But there's actually a lot of good stuff on this show. I mean, the main takeaway, of course, if you've seen the DVD cover, the main event, you have Samoa Joe defending against Homicide. And man, I covered a show a little while back where these guys first met in Ring of Honor, and I remember back at the time I was kind of disappointed with that match. But man, this match I was not disappointed. This is legitimately one of the best ROH matches I've covered so far. So really good shit there. Got a lot of CM Punk on this show as well. Both, he's got promos in the ring. He's on commentary for half the show, and he's got 2 matches. So if you don't like CM Punk, this probably isn't the one for you. We got a lot of furthering of the Pure division on this show as well. There's a lot of names. Like if you look at the card of this show, it's a lot of who the fuck is that guy? But watching the show, and we'll talk about why this is. But man, a lot of great wrestling. But from names that I haven't heard of or haven't really seen much of, I was very impressed with a lot of the stuff on this show. And it's very clear Ring of Honor is starting to figure things out. I kind of say that every episode. But they really do. As each month goes on, they kind of fine-tune certain things. Like now you got multiple divisions. Like the tag team division is starting to really heat up. You got the Pure division, which really feels like something separate from the the World Title division. Kind of like the X division feels like a different compartment within TNA. The Pure division is starting to feel like that already. There's not even a title yet. Lots of new guys coming in, including 2 major debuts on this show. The Elite Hunter, Frankie Kazarian, and Jimmy Rave. Really, really nice to see Jimmy Rave, of course, of the recent passing of Jimmy. So it was cool to take a look back at some of the good old days and really remember why he was so inspirational to a lot of wrestlers nowadays and why he was so good here. So really cool to see Jimmy Rave appear on this show, and he'll have a much bigger presence in later years. But cool debut here, and especially when he's in the ring with guys like Punk and Daniels, who, by the way, those two, CM Punk, Christopher Daniels, they have a little interaction, and I don't know if they've really interacted at all yet in Ring of Honor. the two biggest heels. So really interesting stuff there. You got storyline elements with the prophecy and the various factions. You got Special K, all the stuff you love to hear about from Ring of Honor. You got people with thumbtacks in their face. You got people jumping off buildings. There's a lot, just the normal run-of-the-mill wrestling stuff is what I'm getting at. But, yeah, really fun show today. And no better person to join in on the fun than Mr. Warren Hayes from the Mr. Warren Hayes Wrestling Show. You can check out Mr. Warren Hayes on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Talks about the wrestling. Hopefully you're a fan of that. Otherwise, I don't know why you're listening to this. But yeah, it was fun talking to Warren. I've had him on previously. His show's great. He gets into a lot of the more kind of other topics you don't really hear everybody talking about, like some of the independent stuff, GCWs, the New Japans of the world. Gets into a lot of interesting topics, especially now, with the G1 Climax kicking off. He's doing a lot of coverage of that. So now's the perfect time to jump on Warren's train, so to speak. Chugga. So go check him out. All his info in the description below. Check me out, why don't you? Apronbump.com for all my full episodes. And hey, maybe you're just jumping on. Maybe it's the first time you're listening to the all hardest part of the ring. Well, if you like this, if you like old school Ring of Honor, go to apronbump.com, go to the episodes tab, select ROH, and I'll bring you to all of the Ring of Honor shows that I've covered thus far. I started from the very beginning and have moved chronologically up until now, May of 2003. So do that. Subscribe to the YouTube. If you're watching on YouTube, why don't you give this old joker a like? Bing. Right there. I think it's right there. Or is it mirrored? I don't know how cameras work. But do that. Oh, wait, hold on. Do that or die that. The show is called Do or Die. Ring of Honor, Do or Die, 2003, with myself and Mr. Warren Hayes.
I'm with you 100%.
Exactly.
But no, it's fine. You excited for Flair's last match now? Did it make you? Is Jeff Jarrett making you buy the pape now?
I don't know. You know what's funny? I was reading because people were speculating on who it would be. I saw somebody say, "What if it's Charlotte as his opponent?" Yeah. I think that's the only thing that would have made me intrigued enough to buy the pay-per-view.
I agree. That would have been something. I agree.
Well,
for some reason, a lot of people thought it was going to be AJ Styles. I don't know where that came from.
Well, Flair tweeted something about it coming from WWE, and I don't know, because AJ's like I don't know why. I guess they have history in TNA a little bit, and AJ is like a easy guy.
Sure.
Like you and me could have a good match with AJ Styles, so like it would make sense in that way. But it is what it could be worse. Jay Lethal, Jeff Jarrett.
Oh no, with Andrade in the mix, of course it could be worse. It could absolutely be worse.
I was kind of morbidly curious to see him have like a singles match and just kind of see like how it would went, but it makes sense.
Yes, it does.
Well, maybe his last match in a couple of years will be a singles match.
This is like his fourth last match.
At this point, it's like, yeah, okay, probably, but probably not too. So
yeah, exactly. Never say never. Never say never.
Yeah, especially with the Flair ski. Man, well, no Ric Flair on this show. Probably some worse people, but some better people.
A couple of worse. Yes.
Man, I can't. A certain Iceman, I can't wait to talk about. But yeah, Do or Die 2003. Man, did you get a chance to watch the show?
Absolutely.
Because you strike me as an ROH fellow. Did you watch ROH back in the day?
Aha. Well, you are about to be deceived. No. Well, not in early 2000s and so on and so forth. Not that far back. I was a message board aficionado. I hung out on a lot of those. So, I'd keep up with the Ring of Honor stuff. I saw people were really getting excited into it. And, like I had dipped my toes into tape trading a few years previous, but, when you do something, it's like, okay, no, this ain't for me kind of thing, So it's like, I probably could have, that's probably how I could have got it. Because up here where I was situated in Canada, like, we were, I always considered ourselves to be lucky to even get Nitro.
Right.
So like I had never seen any Ring of ECW stuff until it started, God bless you, LimeWire, kind of things. Like that's how I started to be able to see some stuff. But other than that, no, like I can't say, like I'm not the biggest Ring of Honor nerd. I've obviously went back to watch some key moments, key matches, some pay-per-views, so on and so forth. But no, I'm not. I wouldn't say I'm well versed in the lore in and about itself.
Right. Yeah, I'm kind of similar to you, like especially because I started watching like live-ish like in the late 2000s. I didn't watch back at this time period, but like you, I've seen some key moments. I know some of the history. I know a lot of the champions and stuff like that, and some of the storylines. But for the most part, I'm watching this with fresh eyes, which is fun.
Absolutely, and it's crazy because when you do go back and you do look at stuff, you're like, all these people, like you still know. Well, at least let's say 65 to 70% of them, who these people are. Most of them are still wrestling, and especially as you move forward towards the end of the aughts and into the 2010s, then you're like, okay, well, these are the stars of today that I'm watching right now, So it's wild for that.
Yeah, even more wild when you consider this weekend we have a Ring of Honor pay-per-view on our hands, and literally on that ROH pay-per-view, there are a lot of people from this ROH show 20 years ago that are on that pay-per-view,
which is crazy. But here's something that I don't think really gets put out there enough, because what you just said here, right? In the 90s, let's say 80s, 90s, that would be unthinkable for guys to have 20, 25, 30-year careers, right? For multiple reasons. And I'm not just talking about, the toll that the business takes on your body. I'm also talking about, the substance abuse and so on and so forth. The way that medical science in regards to sports, how much that's evolved and has allowed wrestlers, athletes of all endeavors, right? But wrestlers as well have been able to benefit from, knowledge and advances in medical in medical science to extend their careers. So it's great that, despite the fact that you got, CM Punk on this card in 2003, and okay, he's not going to be at the Ring of Honor show, but he's, all right, okay, he had a 7-year break. Sure.
I mean, he's the AEW champion now, so
exactly. See, that's the point. That's still and not a champion. Like when I was watching this, and the guy was in his 40s and 50s being a champion, it was Hulk Hogan, and everyone was pulling their hair out of their head. I was like, "What the hell are you doing? He can't go anymore." CM Punk can still go, not like in 2003, but he can still work a proper match. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's really cool to see, nonetheless.
Yeah, for sure. And CM Punk, he was never particularly like, I don't want to say he's not athletic because he is, but he's always kind of clunky a little bit. And so it's kind of like as he progresses, you don't really see that deterioration.
He's the best in the world. What are you talking about?
I would say Iceberg's the best in the world, but
here we go. No, but no, I agree with you. Look, he's not like one of these. Well, look, we're probably going to talk about a match here between two guys on this card here, which was your work rate match, right? Where it's like this is for the work rate nerds, absolutely. But that's not what CM Punk was about, right? CM Punk was, he wasn't necessarily a work rate guy. He could go, as you said, very athletic, so on and so forth. But his, his gimmick was never really like to start going all Bryan Danielson on someone. That wasn't his thing. Right. It was never his thing. He was invested in his character. His character carried a lot of the weight and the drama of a match.
Yeah, for sure. And that in Ring of Honor at this point, I mean, there's not a lot of promo guys, so to speak. But
God, with the amount of time that they had for promos on this card, though, you'd think they thought that, though.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Look, they're trying something. We'll get into it as we roll down the card. But
God
I can
bless
appreciate
them.
the attempt. You can't. You miss all the shots you don't miss, or whatever the fuck the saying is.
It's true. Now, hang on. This is Canadian legend, untouchable Canadian legend Wayne Gretzky that is credited for this saying. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
I think it was Shaquille O'Neal. But anyways,
no!
No, I'm just kidding. I watch cricket too. But the show opens up and, well, man, God, talking about promos. So this show is shot out of a cannon with Julius Smokes. You familiar with Julius Smokes at all?
Not really.
Well, now you are.
Now I am, yes.
So, it's a Homicide promo, really. And his buddy Julius Smokes is behind him. And the main event of this show, of course, Homicide is challenging for the ROH title against Samoa Joe. And so Homicide's cutting a promo. You know how it is. I was from the streets. Now I've worked my way here for the wrestling for a world title, that whole thing. It's kind of a whatever promo, but you have Julius Smokes in the background, like, he has a hype man for a promo, which I think that should be done more often. Just a guy yelling things in the background when people are cutting promos.
Just repeating lines, right? Just like saying out loud, saying your last line out loud. Yeah, absolutely. Right. That's it. It's exactly like you said. That'd be something we should bring back in wrestling, and I'd be in the background. That's something we should be bringing back in wrestling.
Yeah. See, how about you could just be my hype man? You don't even need to say anything. You'll just repeat my words.
I'll just repeat your words.
Okay, I hate that. Actually, don't do that anymore. We're not all Julius Smokes. Apparently there is an art to it.
There is an art to it, absolutely. See, I wasn't just repeating your lines. I was actually agreeing with you.
Yeah. You just can't. You're in a hole now, and you can't come out of it. Well, there's also an art to getting high, apparently, because we got the Special K backstage. I'm sorry, they're not high. They're his eye, because we got it has like a camera shot, and in the corner it has deranged RU his eye cam. The letter R, the letter U, his eye cam, and I assume this is a camera, catching Special K being high and such on the marijuanas.
It's a terrible vlog. What we're seeing, like in 2022 parlance, this is a shit vlog. What we're being given. And you know what? I was looking at Special K, right? Like the stable in and about itself. There's people always bitch about the NWO, but Special K had like 20 million people in that too.
They just keep fucking adding people, man. I'm telling you, I'm watching these shows. It doubles every time. All
the time. And is Jay Lethal the only guy who made it out, who actually had a career out of like a proper career? Because he was known as Hydro in Special K, right? Was he the only guy who actually made it out?
He's by far had the biggest career coming out of it. There was a couple of guys still wrestling on the indies, and it's funny. I actually just earlier today saw that Slim J appeared on, I think it was Dark. He apparently is at a stable with Parker Bordeaux, Arya Davari, and it's Slim J. It's like, what the hell is this?
And it's crazy because I'm looking at Slim J in this match where we're going to talk about. He's like, what? He just turned 18, something like that. Like he's a literal kid, And now he's I can't. Did it air? Well, I don't know. Look, I can't wait to see that because that feels like a one of these beautiful train wrecks. I'm really excited to see it.
I'm very. He looked the same. But like you said right here, he's literally 18 in like a week at this point. So what was this, 20 years ago? So
yeah,
he still has the same stupid visor, upside down visor, and wife beater and all that. So.
Look, he's maybe if we cross our fingers, maybe he and Jay Lethal will rekindle Special K in Tony Khan's vision of Ring of Honor.
Wow, that's
one can only hope. Bring back the Raver girls.
That's crazy that that's like a legit possibility. Like even like a silly, like a BTE thing at least. Like have them, meet backstage. Bring Hydro back. Can you imagine Hydro?
He goes back. Wouldn't that be great though? Like he's still stuck like an early Ring of Honor. So he sees Jay Lethal and he starts calling him Hydro, and he pulls out the glow sticks and all, and Lethal's like, yeah, man, that was like 30 years ago at this point, 25 years ago.
It's clearly gonna be me and you that get that reference. Everybody else is gonna be like, "Who the hell is this guy?"
Exactly.
Well, more on Slim J later. Don't you worry, folks. But the opening match here, we got Danny Moff versus BJ Whitmer. So we got Danny Moff, formerly Mafia of the Hit Squad. Are you familiar with the Hit Squad at all, by any chance?
A little, yes. Mm-hmm.
They had a short-ish run. It was mainly 2002, but Moff has just recently he broke up with his partner of the Hit Squad and has joined the Prophecy, which is Christopher Daniels' group. So it's Daniels, Moff, a guy named Donovan Morgan, Allison Danger, and Xavier, who I think is still around. He just recently lost the title. Mm-hmm. So Danny Moff, this is actually his first singles match, I think, in Ring of Honor. I think they mentioned that. But before we actually get into the match, got to note that CM Punk is on commentary. He's on commentary for roughly half the show, maybe a little bit more, until he wrestles. He's so it's him and Chris Lovey, aka Gabe Sapolsky. I don't know if you caught that or not. What'd you think of the commentary on this show?
Gabe's a little rough, right?
He's
Gabe's
fucking awful. He's the worst thing in America.
Gabe's a little rough. It wasn't his thing, I was entertained by CM Punk because I don't know how much of a shoot it was at some in some circumstances, But look, Sapolsky is terrible. Like he's legitimately terrible. And there's a couple of times where CM Punk is like, "Well, what do you think?" About right. Like I think it's even in this match, right? Gabe calls a suplex, right? And CM Punk goes, "Well, it's a suplex, but what kind of suplex is it?" And he says, "Oh, you're putting me on the spot. I couldn't tell." And CM Punk just says, "It's an exploder suplex." That's all I see.
Do you think Punk's been listening to the commentary from the previous shows? He's like, this motherfucker doesn't know any names.
This kid sucks. Moves. He's never gonna make it.
This company's the shit. Probably what old Phil thought. But and then in the beginning of the match, they show a little graphic of the top 5 rankings.
Yes.
In Ring of Honor. So we got, of course, Homicide number 1. Then 2 is Christopher Daniels. 3 is Paul London. 4 is Low Key. 5 is CM Punk. What's your opinion on rankings in pro wrestling? Oh boy, are we going down a rabbit hole?
No, but that's the thing. Like, look, here's the thing. All right, like, I enjoy rankings because I think they're fun, right? And I think that the moment that people start taking them too seriously is when they become less fun, because there's all a bit of kayfabe in it. Look, I'm on the committee for the PWI's Women's 150. Rank, like that's a rank. It's rankings right there. So I can't sit here and be like, rankings stink, because they don't. It's fun and it's interesting to just have a discussion and think about it, because ultimately that's what it is. It's a discussion. Now, when you start bringing it into, here are the top 5 of the division, and we're seeing a lot of discussion around that with AEW these days as well, right?
Yep.
I think there's too much weight. There's too much weight that's put into it, right?
Yeah.
I also think that if you're going to implement them in your storylines, when and so forth, like, do it, commit to it.
Yeah, I agree. It's definitely like, because like you said, you could take it too seriously. You can look at it too literally and it will just ruin the whole experience for you. But at the same time, every once in a while there'll be a match, let's say Dynamite, because they do the rankings. Sometimes they'll be like, oh, number 2 and number 3 are wrestling. Now, if there weren't rankings, it would just be two random jamokes wrestling, and who the fuck cares? But now it's number two, number three. No, now man, this has some significance to it, at least because, like you say, it's kayfabe at the end of the day. No matter if it's rankings or no rankings, so it doesn't really matter too much. But I think if it's in the background, they play, they have matches that affect the rankings, and then the rankings affect things. It doesn't need to be 100% of the time. It doesn't need, sometimes a guy that's not in the top 5 can get a title shot. That's fine. It's wrestling. People have sex with corpses and get buried alive in wrestling. Like, we don't need to, take it too scientific,
It's a double-edged sword when it comes to using that in your storylines on, in your promotion, I think, because there's going to be people who are going to hang on to that to dear life and say, why is X getting a shot when Y is number 1, for whatever. But it is, like you mentioned, it is a very interesting device, because if you're just having number 2 and number 3 fighting for the number 1 spot on the rankings, that's cool. It just gives a reason for the match to happen.
Right. Yeah. No harm in that.
No.
So we got Danny Moff versus BJ Whitmer here to open the show. We got the first thing I noticed is so they got some new guardrails out there. Ring of Honor does, because before this they literally, to call it a chain link fence would be generous. It was just strands of metal before that did nothing. These are still a little sketch, but they're definitely more solid. And when people get whipped into these guardrails, man, it's like an explosion.
It's so loud. It's fantastic. Like, you really feel like they're destroying the sound barrier every time they get thrown into it. It's fantastic. I love it too.
It's so good. Yeah, and they're really playing to, it's almost like a meme to them, because right in the beginning, BJ whips Moff into 3 corners outside into the guardrails, goes for the 4th one, but Moff counters and throws BJ into the last one. Back in the ring, you got Moff just dropping BJ on his head with a half and half. It's kind of a theme throughout this show. A lot of people are getting dropped on their heads, but which maybe negates the advances in medical knowledge, but it is what it is. Well, I mean, they have the knowledge. Maybe they just don't give a shit. But so we got a Moff goes for the burning hammer onto BJ, but BJ counters into a German. BJ goes to the top rope, but Allison Danger gets up as Moff distracts the ref. Allison Danger crotches BJ on the top rope.
She slaps him on the ass. That's what she does. He's up on the top rope, and she just puts both her hands and she slaps him right on the ass, and he goes whomp. That's what she does.
So she wasn't trying to interfere in the match. She just wanted a nice grab of that BJ.
Yeah, let's call it. Let's go with that.
Anyways, moving on. So we got Moff hitting a burning hammer onto BJ for the win. So Danny Moff gets the win, and got a little hullabaloo after the match. But as far as the opener, what'd you think of it?
It was fine. I have a natural aversion to Dan Moff matches now because of the stuff that happened with him with speaking out and the investigation that Ring of Honor conducted while he was still under their employ, and then decided to release him. And I mean, there's been stories regarding Dan Moff for years at this point. He had a huge falling out with Homicide. They used to be pals, and regarding, well, look, just Google it. I don't necessarily want to talk about it. So it's like, and especially Danny, calling him Danny sort of feels like, hey, he can be your pal kind of thing. It's like, I don't want Dan Moff to be my pal.
It's just Danny. Come on, War Dog. It's just Danny.
No, that's the thing. So, but trying to be as objective as possible. I think a fine. It was an okay opener. It was a good curtain jerker. Nothing to write home about.
Yeah, I agree. Almost kind of just sets up the segment here. So Julius, as Dan Moff is in the ring. Julius Smokes comes back out. We got some more Julius, just what you were looking for. Comes out with a. You got an issue? You got an issue with Julius Smokes?
No, because it's funny because this is because it ties in because he starts cutting his promo right on Dan Moff. Mm-hmm. And I'm sitting there and I don't understand a word he's saying.
Yeah.
I legitimately don't. But the funny thing here is that commentary is on my side. CM Punk is like, I don't know what this guy just said. because I didn't understand a thing he was saying.
I don't know. I understood exactly one word, and I'm not going to repeat it. But
I think I know which word you understood.
yeah. Go revisit the archives if you're listening. You'll understand. But so Julius Smokes comes out here. He has a Hit Squad shirt. He's throwing it in Danny Moff's face. Like, how could you turn your back? Because it's like a whole crew of guys, and it's pretty much Moff turning his back on all his buddies, including Low Key, who comes out wearing a sling. So I guess he injured his arm. It's like there was a Frontier wrestling show before this, which is in London, and I guess Low Key injured his shoulder or arm there. And says that one day, once I'm healed, I'm gonna fight you, Moff. And then if you don't be wearing the colors of the prophecy and all that shit. Then Low Key turns his attention to Julius Smokes. Says, Ring of Honor is not a place for thugs. And Julius takes his shirt off for some fucking reason. I wish he didn't. Homicide comes out to break it up. Julius and Low Key are about to come to blows. And then Low Key's like, Homicide, you need to focus. You need to get rid of Smokes. You need to get rid of this thug. And then Trent Acid comes out, hits Homicide with, there's so much going on here. Big boot to Homicide, and then runs away. I guess commentary says, or Gabe says they've been feuding. Big Japan, I think is what he said. Some Japanese promotion they've been feuding for, I guess, a junior title. So I guess that was just all that was
didn't
for.
He say what is it, New Japan? He said, wasn't it? Pretty sure. Didn't he say New Japan?
It might have been.
I'm pretty sure Trent Acid went for. I'm pretty sure when Trent Acid had a bit of a run in Japan.
Yeah.
I might be talking through my hat here, but I can check it out.
I think they all kind of just popped around everywhere, but give it a goog.
Yeah, just really quickly. It was that's one of the things here too. It was nice to see Trent Acid as well, because we all know how history turns out, and so that was fun too, to be able to see it, to see him, and in some good years,
the Backseat Boys.
I don't see anything relating to. I thought he had said New Japan. You're right. It was Big Japan. I
thought so, because I remember thinking that was. I've never watched Big Japan. I've heard of Big Japan, and I always think, oh, it's probably a bunch of big people there. But then they're talking about like big Japanese people. That's in my head. That's what Big Japan is. But apparently, there was some sort of cruiserweight junior title there, which sounds like an oxymoron to me. But anyways, so after that, so throughout the show, they show some highlights from what they call an ROH showcase event, which I don't know if that's just like the pre-show of this show or what, but and they show a tag team match between Slugga and Hydro versus the team of Dunn and Marcos, and Slug and Hydro get the win. Jay Lethal gets the win with an assisted splash headbutt off of Slugga, who's a big Rastafarian fellow, is how he's been described. Then we got Alexis Lurie versus Persephone. A little Mickey James action in Ring of Honor. Just pretty much just some highlights of the match, but women's wrestling in Ring of Honor, I mean, shit, they didn't introduce the women's title until a couple years ago. So 2003, we're a long ways away from it being taken seriously. Although they had Shimmer. Wasn't Shimmer like the sister promotion to Ring of Honor? Or
I don't know if it was a sister promotion per se, but
they were featured on some shows, I know.
Yes. I think they did run in same circles, let's put it that way. I don't know if it was officially a sister promotion.
Yeah. Did you have any thoughts on Mickey James or any of those highlights? They're pretty quick.
I was going to say they were pretty quick and good for them.
Yeah. Good for them indeed.
But it's funny because it's kind of funny because one of the things is you'd buy the tapes for this, right? Like you'd buy the tapes, and then you'd have like these showcase matches, which are just like tidbits, and you're like, okay, you could have put the whole match on the tape, really, if you wanted to. One thing, and the second thing is airing their next shows in Philadelphia and so on and so forth. I thought was really funny because you're like, regardless of when you end up getting the DVD of this show, the Philadelphia show that you're announcing for next month has probably already happened.
Right.
Kind of thing. I thought that was funny.
And so I grew up with VHSs, so I don't want you to think that I'm a young boy and don't know what VHSs are. I'm wondering, do you think there's like a time limit because it's like a finite, it's like a physical maximum that you could put on a VHS, and maybe the DVDs have to be the same. So I'm wondering if that's why there's like some sort of limit to that.
Well, there are physical limits to both.
Right. Yeah.
Obviously, the DVD could contain a lot more data.
A 2-disc set.
That could be exactly. Final Fantasy VII on the PS1 was like what, on 4 discs or something like that.
Right. Wow. That you just unlocked a core memory in my head. Yeah. That was crazy back in the day.
So yeah, there's a finite to everything. So yeah, that's actually a pretty good thought right there.
Well, a couple of guys that don't have good thoughts. So we got Tony Mama Luke versus Jason Cross. So another theme of the show, at least for me, is that there were a lot of matches. When I saw the names, I was like, I don't really give a fuck about this. But they would win me over in the match. Sure. And that was kind of the case with this match. So Jason Cross, who I did some research on him. He did a little bit of stuff in TNA, like in the very early days, like the first couple of years. He was actually on the first TNA pay-per-view, like the first proper pay-per-view in 2004. Tony Mama Luke, of course, of FBI fame. And at this point, because there was in the first year of Ring of Honor, Little Guido was there with them, and they were actually feuding. But at this point, he is now in WWE as Nuncio. So Tony is running solo here in Ring of Honor, kind of getting away from the character aspect and being more of a wrestler. And I like this match. It was, two guys, Jason Cross, a high flying guy. He did this impressive deadlift suplex to counter an arm bar, and then did a twisting plancha to the outside.
Hell. He just tosses him. That was dope as hell, actually. That's something that I'm looking at today, because, everyone does that spot these days, right? Everyone does that spot where they're like, I'll lift you out of the power bar and then I'll pound you. But then I'm like, why don't you toss him then? I see this and I'm like, start tossing fools. That would really be cool.
Yeah, it looked really good. Yeah, I wasn't sure what to expect from Jason Cross, but he impressed me. You got Tony busting out a rope hung DDT from the top rope, which looked nasty. And then I don't know how much NXT 2.0 you watch nowadays, but Grayson Waller has been, me too. Grayson Waller has been busting out this like flipping unprettier, where he does a front flip from behind the guy or a kill switch, I guess that Christian does. And I saw it and I was like, man, I've never seen anybody do that. Well, in 2003, we got Jason Cross doing it. It was very because Christian was doing it at this point, but man, he added a twist to it. Got some brain busters. Apparently, Jason Cross's finisher is a shooting star leg drop, which is absurd. Can you do a shooting star leg drop?
If I can do it, no, I cannot. But it's crazy when you think like just the amount of control. When beautiful Bobby Eaton passed away, everyone put over his, the Alabama Jam, right? Because it's like, no matter how many times Bobby Eaton did it, he never hurt a guy, and he never ever injured a guy, and because you do have to have a certain amount of control, right? Now imagine doing an Alabama Jam, but in the meantime you're like flipping forward, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the amount of it's risky. The amount of control you have to do, and especially if you're technically a leg drop needs to be, around the throat area, upper chest. So because the idea is like you're cutting off circulation for a bit, right? That's the thing. You're cutting off your not circulation, but breathing, respiratory, your respiratory system. So you have to sort of land here. So if you're doing, you don't want to land on the dude's face either. It's like it. I would have liked to have seen his finisher. We didn't quite get to see it, but I think it. I was like, really? Okay.
Well, we saw an attempt, which is which is something. Gave me what I wanted, I guess. But yeah, it's funny because the closest thing I can think of is when Too Cold Scorpio used to do the moonsault leg drop, which but Too Cold would land on people's heads all the time. He didn't care.
He didn't care.
Still doesn't care. But anyways, but ultimately, Tony Mama Luke wins with a slick-looking superplex right into a guillotine choke for the tap out. So Tony Mama Luke wins, and pretty fun match.
I enjoyed it. Yeah, I thought it was fun. I thought it was really good. A strong match between the two. And a lot of this match aged well. It aged very, very, very well. They're doing this in 2003, and we are, almost 20 years later at this point, and this is the kind of shit you see pretty much all the time now.
Yeah, I mean, Ring of Honor really set the tone for today's style, for sure. And you see
Absolutely.
even, random matches like this, you can see that.
Exactly.
I have a question. Is it guillotine or guillotine?
Because I have I speak French on top of English, I would have a tendency to say guillotine
okay.
as opposed to guillotine. It's like gorilla or gorilla. No, that's not.
That's tortilla or tortilla.
Yeah,
right.
exactly. But I usually say guillotine.
Because I said guillotine the other night, and my fiance laughed at me like it was the most ridiculous thing she ever heard.
Wow.
But I told her, told her what? I'll relay the message.
Dial it back. No, seriously, tell her to dial it back. She starts laughing. Hang on a second now.
Why don't you cool your tits, madam? That's what I'll say to her. Really show her who's boss.
Exactly. Madam.
And
madame? Is it madam or madame? We better get this shit straight first, though.
Call in. What do you think, madam or madame? really hitting the hard-hitting questions here.
God damn right.
Oh, man, too hot for TV. But, well, shit. Well, that's kind of a bad segue into this next segment. So we got Rob Feinstein here. He's backstage. And
I could feel my body crisp up when I saw his face. I was like, oh.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's the boss, right?
He sure is. He's not the most ridiculous thing in this segment somehow, because Iceberg walks up to him. I think he was in NWA as well. Bald fella, big fella. He walks up to Rob Feinstein and he says, thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for booking me on the card. Because it's a back shot of Iceberg. And then Iceberg turns around and starts walking away. And you see he has thumbtacks in his forehead in the shape of ROH.
And there's quite a few. It's not like, 4 or 6 per letter. There's an expenditure. I would have to do an exact recount, but I would say between 20 to 30 thumbtacks were used in the production of this segment.
Mm-hmm. You just think he's doing it, and he finishes the R. He's halfway through the O. Do you think he feels like a silly goose as he's doing this?
Now, what? Okay, so the idea is, did he do this in a way to say thanks? Is this some kind of weird ritual? Where let's say he gets booked. Let's say he were to get booked, at Total Nonstop Action. Now, would he go see, let's say, I don't know, Jeff Jarrett back in the day, or Vince Russo, depending on, and to thank them, he has Total Nonstop Action in his forehead. I mean, is that just a way for him to, to show his appreciation? Kind of like some kind of weird mating ritual, like tropical birds, when they start showing off their plumage, maybe is this the type of thing that he does? Now, the second question that brings on is, does he do this himself? If so, I appreciate the dedication. That means he goes into a public washroom and he's got his tin, I would assume a little tin of thumbtacks, right? And he starts punching them in. And, and I would dread walking into a bathroom then and seeing a guy doing that, because then I'd walk away. Or does he have someone help him? Does he have someone do that for him? Right? Because there's it's very precise. He got the letters down perfectly. The
good thing you spelled it right. There. Imagine he finishes it like, oh, nerds, I need to redo this.
Whoops.
Oh, Bob's your uncle. I missed the letter.
Or he messes up. He gets an indie booking. And he thinks he's at PWA, but but he's like, it's TWA. Oh shit! And then he has to start over the P.
Yeah, that's the whole thing. That'd be very embarrassing.
Yeah,
that would make him look silly if he had the wrong letters. But he has the right letters here, so he seems like a stand-up guy.
Yes, can't be any worse than Rob Feinstein.
You know what? That's a fact. That is a fact. But something tells me from this Iceberg fellow that he's probably not the cleanest. He doesn't have the cleanest record of, well, I don't know. I'm not going to disparage the name of Iceberg when I don't know him. I'm not going to disparage the 600-pound pain train for no reason.
Was it the pain train or the no pain train? I think
you know what? Maybe it is no pain train, but he feels no pain. That's why he has all the thumbtacks in his forehead.
I think that's the thing, right?
You might be right.
There's a lot of icebergs here.
When you type in iceberg, does this fella come out? As the first?
It doesn't come out as the first. Hang on.
No, we got to know.
Yes.
People are begging for it.
I feel like it was the no pain train he was referred to as.
That would make sense.
Let me go check on the cage match. Would it make sense? Because I wasn't sure if I got it.
I thought 600 pounds would be the sticking point, but I guess not. Using the same scale as Crash Holly.
It is the no pain train.
It's pretty cool.
He's also referred to as the being of inconceivable horror.
Ugh. It's a mouthful. But I mean,
just rolls off the tongue. Put that on a t-shirt.
Yeah, I will. Listen, man, when you're a man, you can't wrestle. You look horrifying. You got to find a gimmick. And I guess he was trying something here. It's him versus...
He was doing his damn best, I'll tell you that.
He was using what God gave him.
He last wrestled in 2018, and he retired.
Is he still alive?
Yes, he's still alive.
That's a shame.
He wrestled for Platinum Championship Wrestling out of Porterdale, Georgia.
I'm shocked. Not only that he's alive, but that he was wrestling as recently as 4 years ago. That
exactly.
blows my mind. What if he just got into like really great shape and just became like a work rate guy?
What exactly? What if we're missing out here, Kyle? What if we're sitting here going like, look at this fat dude who was trained by Abdullah the Butcher. Look at this guy, and now he's like work rate phenom. You know?
Yeah. Well, it was not phenomenal this match because he was in that segment with Rob Feinstein. The Outcast Killers came in. They're like, hey man, hey Robbie F, why aren't we given these opportunities? And he's like, well, you want an opportunity, go wrestle that guy. And they're like, oh man, because he's very scary. So Iceberg goes out there. I think at first it's just him versus Oman Tortuga, and it's a very quick match, thank God. Not quick enough though. Iceberg hits a beach break and then a senton for the win. So just a quick squash. And
did you notice when he won? Did you notice the Ring of Honor audience? Is it an audience or a crowd or an audience or a universe? The Ring of Honor universe?
I think it's the Ring of Honor universe. Yeah.
Did you hear them? Did you hear what they were chanting to him?
Something tells me that they weren't fans of this fella.
They really were not.
They
were saying, "Don't come back.
Don't
come back." It was like, that's fantastic stuff.
Because I feel like "please come back" is a very common chant nowadays. I don't feel like I remember hearing it a lot back then.
You know what? I feel we're nicer as audiences this recently. Like and I'm not talking like even like, look, 2016 was WrestleMania 20, right? Right? If I'm not mistaken.
20 was
no. What am I talking about?
2005 or so, 2004.
Well, hang on. Well, sorry. Maybe I got my WrestleManias confused. I'm thinking about the one with the Goldberg Brock match.
Yeah, that's
that one.
20. Yeah, that was 2004.
That's 20. Okay, so
that's
my point
pretty close to this.
My point is moot then. No, but I feel like recently we're nicer to audiences. You know, we'll chant out "This is awesome" to people hitting moonsaults. You know, it's like, take it easy there, pal.
Well, no, that does go to your point because we're still in the same time period and people are flipping off Goldberg and Brock Lesnar for having a match. So people are dicks back then. Is the theme.
Yeah. Well, there you go. Yes, exactly. That's the point I was trying to make.
Don't come back. So yeah, and we'll see if he does. But then Diablo Santiago, the partner of Oman Tortuga, comes out and Iceberg gives him like It's like if you just walked up to somebody in the street and tried to give him a German suplex. Like that's what this was. And like a shoot German suplex, just drops him right on his head. And then Iceberg pulls out a pointy stick.
Yep. He was ready to go full Abby on him.
Not a shank, not a knife, a pointy stick.
A pointy stick.
A pointy stick. It wasn't a stick. It was a pointy stick. It was very pointy. Can't say it wasn't. So everybody runs away, and Iceberg's in there with his pointy stick. Next match. Something a little different, a little change of pace. We got Tom Carter, formerly known as Reckless Youth.
Yeah.
Versus Matt Striker. Not that one. A different one. Matt Striker with a Y. And a little...
Matt Striker with the unibrow. It's
yes.
that one we're talking about.
Very, very good. Yes.
And a hefty unibrow at that, too. A
Man,
very, very good one.
Punk. CM Punk was not very... Because Gabe was like, oh, well, what do you think of this guy's unibrow? And Punk's like, who gives a shit about his unibrow? Let's watch him wrestle. Really just sandbagged his joke. It's so good. But, yeah, kind of highlighting the pure division here, which is just kind of starting to get off the ground. There's no title yet, but there's like a segment in divisions that's starting to form here. You familiar with Reckless Youth or Matt Striker?
Mm-hmm. Yes, both. That's when I was, like I said, when I was dipping my toe into tape trading and obscure stuff. Reckless Youth would be a guy that would pop up quite a bit, and he's definitely a guy who, to this day, doesn't. I think like if how
right.
important he was to the independent scene in the '90s and how he did help define a style. But he's a guy who will probably never wrestle again. Like I think he works. Like I think he has like a VP position in a retail company. Like some
really.
Yeah, no. Like while he was wrestling, he was studying to be an accountant, kind of thing. It's like he knew that this wouldn't be forever. But this is a guy who helped revolutionize. Bringing the junior style of wrestling from Japan into the United States and making it something that you want to pay money to go see on the indies. That was his calling card. That was his thing. He's crucial to most of the guys who wrestled in Ring of Honor at that time, who saw what he was doing. It's like, hey, we can do this. We can change this around. We can mold styles. But he was absolutely critical. Reckless Youth is one of the most important figures on the 90s independent circuit and into the 2000s because he co-founded Shikara. He's one of the co-founders of of Shikara. Yeah, absolutely. So he had a few matches there, but and then he eventually just went away, and I don't think he has any interests in ever coming back, which is a shame because if he did, if he ran into a big time wrestling nerd who had tons of money from his NFL owner father,
I know one of those.
Well, there you go. Well, give Reckless a call then, because Reckless then could probably get his flowers nice and proper.
Yeah, I was about to ask. Do you think he was a little bit before his time? Reckless
absolutely.
Youth?
He is absolutely a trailblazer. He's a guy, like Sarah Del Rey for the women. It's people that really did knock down the walls, that were trying out stuff, that were talented enough to make it work and show people like, look how cool this is, and get people excited about it so that everyone else could run. Absolutely.
Yeah. For sure. Yeah, Matt Striker, definitely another guy that early on in Ring of Honor established that style.
Oh, absolutely. Not to take anything away from Striker. He's fantastic as well.
For sure. And because the first time I saw Matt Striker, it was a few shows before this. I was like, okay, it's just a generic Cradle Wrestler number 2 guy. But man, he's him and Tom Carter, this match. I mean, this match, it was a lot of chain wrestling in the beginning. It built to something. But man, by the end of it, I was all in. This match, arguably, main event's probably my match of the night, but this was up there. This was a damn good match. Anything in particular stick out to you in this one?
Oh, I thought that this was the smoothest match of the night. And for me, this was my match of the night. This is as much as I liked the main event, don't get me wrong, because I thought it ruled. Like it was right up my alley. This one was absolutely fantastic. It's like just everything that they weaved through and got. Everything they were able to weave in and out really so smoothly. with everything, every move they did. It was just fantastic stuff. I really liked, Stryker tries to go for a Death Valley driver. Carter reverses it into a crucifix, but then Stryker rolls through it and hits the DVD anyway. That was awesome. That was really, really awesome. And I think the spot of the spot of this match, Stryker sets Carter up for an avalanche Death Valley driver because the Death Valley driver only, he covered, but he only got 2. Carter reverses. So as he's doing the DVD, Carter in the air reverses the DVD into a DDT mid-air, and the crowd is up on their feet. It's absolutely fantastic.
No, the crowd was super into this match. I mean, those spots were amazing. And there was like one point in the match where, they're trading roll-ups back and forth. Seems like it's going forever, ever, but they somehow keep bringing out new ways to roll each other up into pinfalls, and they just keep going, and everything's so smooth, like you said. And eventually they both get up, and one of them just punches the other guy, and they both collapse, and then the crowd gets to their feet and is like, you didn't see crowds react to that super. Now it's very commonplace, like we mentioned. Like people give this is awesome chance to anybody, but the crowd is really into it. They're really respecting the style of wrestling. Two relative, they're not unknowns, but they're not being put in the main event. They're not being on this kind of pedestal as main eventers at this point. But
and I would assume the Ring of Honor crowd would have known who Reckless Youth was, because there were Reckless Youth chants in the audience, right? I wouldn't say they were but I would assume that the smarter fans back then would have at least known who Tom Carter was.
Yeah, for sure. And but ultimately, Tom Carter
goes. This was his debut, right? It was his Ring of Honor. Isn't that what they said? It was his first match in Ring of Honor, right?
It was his first singles match for Tom Carter. He was in a 4-way the previous show, but this is his first proper singles match. But yeah, towards the end, Tom Carter goes for a reverse cloverleaf. So anybody listening, it's kind of what Rhea Ripley does. But Matt Stryker counters into a roll-up for the win. So Matt Stryker gets the win. Really fun match. But Tom Carter is not too happy. He doesn't want to shake hands. And as you know, the Code of Honor says that you must shake hands with your opponent. I mean, you abide by the Code of Honor every day. I know you do.
Oh,
you
yeah.
have a poster of it.
Absolutely. Yes.
And Tom Carter, he said that was a cheap victory. I don't know how it was cheap, kind of pinned him in the middle of the ring, but he says that he cheated or whatever. And he challenges Matt Stryker to a tap out match at the next show, not a submission match, a tap out match. Matt Stryker accepts on the condition that Tom must shake his hand. And it's at this point where Allison Danger comes out of the Prophecy. She urges Tom Carter not to shake Stryker's hand, and she urges him to join the Prophecy, because that's kind of a running thread throughout the show that Daniels is trying to recruit more people into his faction.
He's on a recruitment run, yeah.
He's it's rush season apparently for the Prophecy. Who would have thought? But and the Prophecy's whole thing is they don't abide by the Code of Honor. They don't shake hands. They hate shaking hands, I would go to say. So it's pretty much, does Carter choose the Prophecy, or does he choose to shake Stryker's hand and get this rematch? And he shakes his hand, Matt Stryker's hand. So I guess they will have a tap out match at the next show or sometime next month. But anything else on that? I think we pretty much covered it.
No, I think fun little angle to set up. Clearly, this is, again, this is the kind of thing that this is the kind of booking I like. Where you're going to get a really great match, a little bit out of nowhere, maybe not expecting it to be this good. And then, let's do an angle. And the next match we're going to up the ante. We're going to go, we're going to go one higher here. I like it. I'm probably going to seek that match out to see how all of this wraps up, because this was a really good match. I really enjoyed it.
For sure. Yeah, that's kind of Ring of Honor, how they've kind of progressed since their first year, because 2002 Ring of Honor can be very much just wrestling, like just kind of random super match kind of stuff. And now they're getting to the point where they're doing promos and angles like this. Like, I don't know if Matt Stryker's ever gotten a promo segment before or anything. And while the promo, it was whatever. I don't think it was terrible, but it didn't blow me away necessarily. But they're doing stuff. They're building characters. They're building storylines, and they're kind of working their way towards where Ring of Honor would eventually be. So I do like that aspect of it. Speaking of Ring of Honor things, that they were known for, the Scramble match. So we got a 4-way Scramble match here. We got the Briscoes versus the Second City Saints, the team of CM Punk and Colt Cabana. Of course, accompanied by Daphne, a.k.a. Lucy, is what she's going by here.
Lucifer.
Oh, like Lucifer.
Exactly.
Versus the Carnage Crew versus Special K, being represented by Dixie and Izzy, of course. With Slugga. We can't forget Slugga on the outside.
Slugga's there, yeah, of course.
Yeah, very, very instrumental. But the match starts to get underway, and it's interrupted because apparently Gary Michael Capetta has a scoop backstage. Actually, no, that's actually not true. They cut to Gary Michael Capetta looking for a scoop. He doesn't even have a scoop. He just cuts back to his ass. Like, what if he didn't have a scoop? What if he didn't find a scoop? He's a scoopless dick. So, but
like in the format of the show, I'm just thinking, like in the format of the show, they're running down. They have it on paper. They're like, okay, so segment 8, Gary, you have to have a scoop. And Gary's like, what? You have till segment 8, you have to get a scoop. And he's like, what the fuck, you know?
Yeah. Well, luckily he runs into Samoa Joe backstage, and Joe's like, "Hey, you looking for a scoop? Well, I got a scoop for you." So he goes into the locker room that's luckily right there, where Danny Moff is getting undressed, I guess, or whatever, untaping his knee. Samoa Joe walks up behind Danny Moff and knees him in the head.
Most beautiful thing I saw of the evening. That was fantastic.
Gary Michael Capetta sold this like he just went in there and shot him in the fucking face.
This is true.
Oh my God! Somebody call somebody. It was one knee. Like, we've seen people get powerbombed on their heads several times already on this show. Like, isn't that a little worse?
It's gonna be fine.
Well, apparently he was sent to the hospital with a broken jaw, but that's a whole thing later. But yeah, kind of, furthering the prophecy versus I feel like the prophecy's involved in like 3 different storylines at this point. I kind of honestly get mixed up, but somebody's mad at the prophecy. Apparently Joe is. So, but yeah, the match. Now we're back to the match. Now we cut back to the match. Now the scoop is over. The scoop is scooped. And lots of unique offense in this match, as per any scramble match. Kind of, starts off, one person or 2 people in the ring. You tag out, all that stuff. And of course, it always breaks down. Izzy of the Special K crew kind of stood out to me. I thought he had a lot of. He did like a backflip double drop kick on the Carnage Crew guys. He did everybody's just doing planches to the outside, corkscrews. The Second City Saints, Punk and Colt, they go for a Doomsday Device drop kick. Mm-hmm. But when I think it was Punk who drop kicks Izzy, who's on Colt's shoulders, Izzy carries it into a reverse Rana, which was
very good.
Yeah. Carnage Crew, their finisher is the spike pile driver off the second rope. So they attempt it onto Izzy, but then Dixie makes the save and pushes Izzy up so that he can do a Rana onto DeVito, whoever it was holding them. But yeah, any other spots like kind of tickle your pickle in this one?
Mark Briscoe did a Fosbury flop.
Oh,
Which was pretty cool. And it wasn't, I don't think it had the name Fosbury Flop. I think the legend is that it's Mike Tenay on TNA that baptized the Fosbury Flop.
Oh, is that true?
Is that, yeah, I think so. I think that's the first time. I think it's Mike Tenay that called it one time on TNA, and it sort of stuck. But the Briscoes, in their Harlem Heat gear, in their Harlem Heat singlets.
Yeah.
Bald.
Right.
I'm like, no, but like I understand. No, but I understand that we're 20 years removed, right? But when you talk, look, honestly, Kyle, you think of the Briscoes and like we're going to see a Briscoes match. You see Wild Eye Mark, right, and Crazy Ass Joe. Not Joe. Why Joe? Jay.
The lesser known third Briscoe.
And they're like, the obscure. Yeah, they're like the Dudleys. They have all sorts of guys.
Yeah.
But they're kids. Like Jay looks like one of these kids who, you know, hangs out at the gas station on Friday nights, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's just crazy to see how far these guys have come. Like, not only in their presentation, but like stylistically, everything.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing from the Briscoes of 2022 that exists in those two dudes that I saw
not
in this
even their
match.
teeth.
They had all their teeth.
That was what, you know, that's what always trips me up. It's like, these are the same people. Yeah, Mark actually just turned 18 himself, too. It was probably a couple months ago. He had his first match in Philly because he was 17. And Jay's only like, what, a year or two older than him? Yeah, so, yeah.
Crazy.
It's bunch of childrens in this match. But yeah, really good stuff. It's a scramble, you know, it's not going to be, not a lot of psychology to a lot of it, but lots of fun moves, and that's kind of what Ring of Honor was known for in this time period. But the finish, by God, the finish. So Colt Cabana hits the Colt 45 on the Dixie, which is a butterfly backbreaker of sorts on his shoulders. And then Punk has Izzy on the top rope. Pepsi Plunge, which is a top rope pedigree, gives it to Izzy onto Dixie, who's laid out on the ground. Looked devastating.
Fantastic. Great finish.
Yeah, that gives the Saints the win here. And, I mean, it's one of the better scramble matches I've seen from Ring of Honor. I mean, I enjoyed it, for sure.
I'm not a scramble guy. I really am not. Ring of Honor, GCW. Like, I'm not there will be some that occasionally will blow my mind where I'll be like, okay, this was really fun. But most of the time, you know, they're fine. Like this wasn't a boring one. It's not on the lower end of my totem of scramble dislikes. It's not on the lower pegs, but you know, it's a scramble match and it's fine, and it was amusing for what it was.
Yeah, and you have some competent people in, because a lot of times the scramble matches are kind of like the miscellaneous, like the junk drawer of matches. So you get like all the new people, all the green people.
Know, as much as I love GCW, that's often what happens. Like, I'm gonna book a bunch of guys, and then they get there and they're okay, boss, what are we doing? Oh well, you, and you, and you. You go in the scramble,
right?
Everyone's like, oh well, who gives a fuck? Brett put us in the scramble, you know.
Yeah, exactly. It happens.
It happens.
So the Saints win. Punk grabs a mic and calls Special K a bunch of pieces of trash because, of course, CM Punk, straight edge, does not care for the Special K and their antics. He doesn't want to be caught on the "Are you his eye" cam. CM Punk just wants none of it, but he shakes their hands anyways because he still abides by the code of honor. Then he starts cutting a promo, and we're in the midst of his feud with Raven, who kicked off a few months ago. Raven is not on this show, but he's basically building up. They're approaching their dog collar match. I think this is in May, and I think it's in July, but they have another match in between that. So Punk's building up to that. He says, 10 years, Raven, you started a revolution of your own, a revolution of the debauchery and drinking and drugs, and all these people watched it and followed you. There's people that follow me in my straight edge revolution, and my revolution was going to destroy yours. A really good promo from Punk. It's especially in Ring of Honor when, I mean, the bar for a good promo is very low, but CM Punk, man, I mean, and you could see like the MJF influence for sure, just in his cadence, and I mean, they had the same catchphrase too. But my favorite thing, so Punk is cutting this intense promo, really good promo. My revolution will destroy yours. And then Cabana starts playing because it's Colt Cabana's theme song. Oh, in the Copa. And then Punk's even's like, what the fuck is this music? It's great shit. Great shit. Did you enjoy that?
Yes, and I also enjoyed the fact that he called out ECW hat guy in the audience. And he called him a piece of trash.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, this is nice. I like this. Okay, nice. This I enjoy. And it was fun, and Colt was telling him to calm down. It's like, right. He was telling, he was just calm down. He was just blowing him off. It's like, go away, Colt. You're not wanted right now. Yeah, no. This was fun. This was a good post match, and we wouldn't be done with CM Punk on this card. Absolutely not.
No, sir. So So I guess it's intermission at this point. So we got GMC back with us. No scoops this time, but he's got BJ Whitmer interviewing him. And
No scoops.
no scoops GMC, as he's known as. Christopher Daniels walks up and interrupts him. And he's pissed off at Joe because he attacked his boy Moff earlier. And so he challenges Joe to an empty arena fight after the show. This really made me think it was going to be like a really significant, like a full, like I'm thinking halftime heat, like it's going to be a whole match, but it's literally like a 30-second little scuffle in the end. But before that, we got John Walters versus Andy Anderson. Warren, tell me what's your favorite John Walters match?
My favorite.
I hear your keyboard.
My favorite John Walters match is the one where he does Comfortably Numb. Oh no, that's not the same guy. That's that's another guy. No, brother. Let's be serious. Let's come on now. We don't know who these guys are. We really don't. I didn't know who these guys were. I looked them up and they're like, okay, they had very nondescript wrestling careers, and there we go. It was, from what I understand, we were back from intermission. You know, I think that was the thing. And
this feels like a match that you would put on during intermission.
Or you know, the match that you put when people are coming back from it, like they'll hear the bell, they'll hear the, but you know, they'll still be in concessions, they'll still be outside smoking, or you know, and then let's get back in, you know. So it's not the pee break match, it's the let's get people back sitting down match, you know. Okay,
it's a step above it. Yeah, this is like a match.
Or
you know,
is
like
it?
when you're watching like a sitcom or something and they're at a wrestling event and you just have it in the background like blurry, like that's what this felt like. It was just there to be wrestling.
Yeah, exactly.
But whatever, one of the guys wins with some sort of move. Next match.
What was that? No, but it was a Splash Mountain though, a spinning Splash Mountain, which was
actually
pretty cool.
An Eye of the Storm, as it would be called.
An Eye of the Storm. There we go.
James Storm, I don't know if he still does it, but he used to do it.
Excuse me. All right, there you go.
There you, sir. It was a match that happened, that's for sure. But yeah, like I didn't recognize it when I see a match and I don't recognize either of the names. I'm like, man, they probably didn't amount to anything, and it seems like they didn't.
Or what I do is you check, you go, you pop in the Google, and you're like, all right, you know, maybe Andy Anderson turned out to be, you know,
John Cena,
Fuego del Sol, you know,
yeah.
You know, and it's like, oh shit, it's Fuego del Sol. I mean, that's not a good comparison, but you know what I mean. Like, you know,
I mean, it could have been. I already forget what these guys look like, so I believe you.
Me too.
Well, it is what it is. But now we got a 4-way match. CM Punk's back, and he's facing off against Christopher Daniels, Jimmy Rave, and Frankie Kazarian. Yeah, great to see Jimmy Rave here, man.
Oh, just really great. Yep.
Yeah. He was
and super young, like 3 years in the business, I think, at this point. Like he was still super, super fresh. Just a great made you feel good. This match made you feel good.
Yeah.
It made me feel
for
good.
Sure. I mean, Jimmy Rave obviously would have a bigger role in the later years in Ring of Honor. It definitely felt like this match was structured like Punk versus Daniels was the story here. But then you have Rave and Kazarian there. They have this, you know, they're with Punk and Daniels, so it elevates them in a sense. And it's both of their debuts in Ring of Honor. Fun little foreshadowing to SCU too, which I didn't realize until after the match. With Daniels and Kaz in there. But Punk and Rave started out. They start chain wrestling a little bit in the beginning, but Jimmy Rave gets the best of Punk. So Punk says fuck this, and tags in Kazarian. And Kazarian and Rave go at it for a bit, but man, when Punk and Daniels both tagged in at the same time, the crowd popped hard for it because I feel like that's what everybody was waiting for, because I don't believe they have faced off yet in Ring of Honor, and they are both very much the top heels at this point. Like they're the two guys that can cut promos, two of the guys that have like legit characters. So seeing them face off was a big moment, and the crowd definitely responded to that. But match was good. Yeah, like you said, Jimmy Rave, always cool to see his like the tilt-a-whirl crossface, the classic from Jimmy Rave. there's a point where Daniel, because eventually it kind of becomes scrambly a little bit. Everybody kind of just starts doing whatever. Daniels and Punk, they both hit the ropes at opposite ends of the ring, and both of the women that are with them, Allison Danger and Lucy, trip each guy, and then Allison Danger and Lucifer get in the ring and start having a cat fight or what? Oh no, they don't have a cat fight.
No, they're on the verge of.
Yes, right. Building up to that, I guess.
Yes.
Their manses hold them back. Frankie Kazarian in there looking pretty much like he does nowadays. Amazingly, man doesn't age. Even doing like the same, like the leg drop where he like hops over the top and then hops back over, and then the springboard leg drop. Frankie Kazarian looking good in there. Yeah, a lot of good stuff in this match. Anything pop your fancy?
Just great stuff all around, for real. We of note. CM Punk did his, everyone talks about the Pepsi plunge, right? The Pepsi twist. Mm-hmm. But we often don't refer to his welcome to Chicago motherfucker move, which is something he doesn't do anymore.
Which one is
that?
Which
is it's a double underhook backbreaker, essentially.
Oh, I didn't know it. What was the name again?
Welcome to Chicago motherfucker.
It's crazy that never translated to WWE.
AEW, let's go.
Let's go.
You guys are already PG. You guys are already TV 14. What are you waiting for?
Somebody get TK on the horn. Let's make this happen.
But it's true when I saw it, and I think commentary called it. I don't remember if they said the motherfucker part, but they did call Welcome to Chicago. And I'm like, oh shit, that's right. Welcome to Chicago, motherfucker.
Right.
So that was cool. I thought it was really fast paced and really cool, and I enjoyed like you said, the Danielson CM Punk thing was part of the story. Daniels.
It's all the same.
Daniels does an ocean cyclone suplex, which is not something you see a lot of. And do you know why you don't see a lot of that? Here's a little tidbit. The move was originally created by Minami Toyota, famous women's wrestler in Japan. And she is, of course, extremely well respected for her craft by men and women. And it is considered good for, regardless, right? You hear that a lot, that wrestlers ask for the permission to use another wrestler's finisher, right? Let's say, they'll call, like Taz once bitched about it, right? He never called me to ask if he could use, that kind of stuff. Well, it's accepted. You are supposed to ask Minami Toyota to use the Ocean Cyclone suplex. She will give you permission or not. And if you don't ask permission, it's a faux pas. It's very, very poorly regarded. So I don't know if Daniels asked permission.
Was it Daniels or Kazarian that did it?
It was Daniels who did it. No, it was Kazarian. No, you're right. It was Kazarian. Sorry. It was Kazarian who did it. So I don't know if he gave her a call or went through intermediaries to get the permission, but I'd have to look at more of Kazarian's offense in Ring of Honor, because I don't know if that became a staple for him, if it was a thing. Because I hope he asked, because you don't want Mother Toyota to be pissed off at you. Let me tell you.
Do you think Frankie got an angry Japanese phone call after this match?
Maybe he was like, "Oh, this is obscure enough to just blow under. No one will know. No one will ever tell her." I'm wrestling out of the United States on this really strange show that you can only watch on tape. Come on, no one's gonna see this.
Well, that was impressive nonetheless.
Yeah, it's a great move. Cass. It's a great move, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, Bea Priestley, before she went to NXT UK when she was still in Stardom, I think she did it once, and in an interview had to say, "I got permission from Minami Toyota to do it." It's just to clarify, she's cool with me using the move.
That's cool that it has such like a legacy to it, because I never see this move ever nowadays, and I guess that's why.
That's probably why.
But ultimately, Daniels hits the last rights onto Kazarian for the win. So Christopher Daniels gets the win, and he grabs the mic after the match, gives props to Jimmy Rave and Kazarian, Then he turns to CM Punk and asks Punk to join the Prophecy. And Punk, he's like, man, I smell the fear on you, Daniels. You could see my saints surpassing the Prophecy, and you just want me to join because of that. Well, you know what? I'll join the Prophecy on one condition, that you shake my hand. And as we all know, the Prophecy hates hands. They're
foot fetishists is what it is. They can't stand the fingers and digits and no, absolutely not.
No, yeah. Like you said, strictly feet guys in the old P, the TP. But Daniel's like, okay, then he does the old running it through his hair or his head. So he doesn't shake his hand. So Punk isn't in the Prophecy. He kind of called his bluff there. So I guess it was more Second City Saints Prophecy shenanigans in the future coming out of this.
And if I'm CM Punk at the same time, right, and I'm seeing like Christopher Daniels all throughout the evening, you should join the Prophecy. You should join the Prophecy. I'm like, what kind of leadership is this? Is he just like asking people willy-nilly? It's like,
it seems like
if I want to join a group, I'm like, no, be selective. If you're picking me, I want to feel special. I want you to take me out to dinner. I want you to make me feel. Okay. I want you to make me feel pretty. That's what I want you to do.
So you're saying the Prophecy is like the Tinder of factions.
There you go. Do you want to join? Yes. No. Okay. Next. It's like, eventually we'll get. Someone will connect. Everyone will. Someone eventually will.
I think that's $1 million idea that I just kind of came up with. If it's a Tinder, but with factions. So if you're looking for somebody to join your wrestling faction, fire up old whatever you want to call it, faction. Just call it faction. Fuck it.
Yeah, just yeah, exactly. Remove the vowels, right?
Right.
And then you have
modern.
Yes, and there's the name of it. FCTN fiction. That's
right. I'll be sure to cut this part out so that we don't just give this idea out for free to the listeners.
Oh God, we wouldn't want that.
To the millions and millions. But after that, speaking of factions, we got the Backseat Boys and Special K facing each other in a match, kinda. So it's this match fairly just epitomizes early 2000s indie wrestling to me. Baggy pants, a lot of kind of a sloppy match. There's some fun stuff. I mean, there's like somersault planchas.
There's Trent Acid. No, just really quickly because it is sloppy. But there's Trent Acid and there's Jody Fleisch who are a cut above their partners. Like unquestionably. Yeah. But honestly, they're just working on another level, on another playing field. Johnny Cashmere is what it is. Slim Jim, like we said, he's 18. Like, he hasn't even voted yet, kind of thing. It's like, this is the thing. So you've got Trent Acid, who is fantastic. Jody Fleisch was very good. And when they're in the ring together, everything just connects and goes and goes and goes. But then when you start mixing the other two dudes in that formula, then you start going, ooh, all right.
Yeah, very much. So we got Johnny Cashmere hits like a made in Japan looking move, the Slim J. The Backseat Boys hit the Dream Sequence, which is like it's like a drop toe hold and like a Moodle lock drop kick. I don't know which one. It's a whole thing.
Something like that.
A lot of double teamage going on here. Jody eventually hits the 720 DDT onto Trent Acid, which is crazy looking. But then it all breaks down. The camera follows. Everyone starts fighting in the crowd. Slim J and Jody Fleisch of Special K, they find the scaffold that's in the crowd, which is, 15 feet up in the air.
Easily.
Has wheels on it. So they're rolling the scaffold over to this like empty area in the back of the crowd. The Special K guys are looking up how tall scaffolds are.
No, no, absolutely not. Don't worry. Don't worry. Because I would assume that scaffolds have various heights. You can use a scaffold like on a a 30-story building.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
I don't think I'd advise it, but
Especially not one with wheels. And I probably wouldn't advise Jody Fleisch and Slim J to do that because they climb up to the top of the scaffold and they both hit moonsaults off of the scaffold onto the backseat boys. And man, cause it's this crazy spot, right? The match though has like no heat to it, so it's kind of like a lull in the crowd. There's not a lot of reactions, and then all of a sudden people are jumping off of 20-foot things, and then they react, and then it kind of comes back down. They were trying.
Yeah, because I don't think it helped the heat of the match. Listen, I kind of feel like it sort of. I felt it really derailed the match. Like I feel like it really, really derailed because it was one of these spots where it didn't feel like, oh, we're fighting in the crowd, and then we start climbing the scaffold for the spot. Now it's like, oh, we got to go out of the ring to go do the spot. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
And then I'm like, okay, oh, you're going, and then. Yes, the spot was wild, but it felt super contrived. And I think for me, I was enjoying the match up until that point, despite all its warts. But this sort of it took me out of it. I was like, no, this ain't working for me. Plus, Fleisch blew his knee out. Yeah,
I couldn't tell if that was for real or if he was just selling it. But I imagine jumping off that fucking thing. Yeah, the match pretty much ended right after that.
Slim J was caught, like his dudes caught him, like he landed like flat.
Yeah, he almost broke his fucking neck the way he landed, but he did land on guys. So,
Fleisch landed on his feet, so I wouldn't be surprised if he did blow his leg. He landed on his feet.
Yeah, no, yeah, that's I would bet on that for sure. But they fight back to the ring pretty much right after this. The backseat boys eventually hit the T gimmick, which is like a choke slam with the arms, double team move off the top rope onto Slim J for the win. So the backseat boys get the win here, and it was fun. I guess it was it was definitely a little clunky.
Fun double team finisher though, and I wonder why I wonder why we haven't seen more tag teams use it. Like because it kind of looked like you said, a double choke slam, right? Mm-hmm. And the way they positioned themselves, they looked like a T off the top rope. I'm like, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I know the Wyatt family Luke Harper, Eric Rowan, they use that as their finish. That's right. They did. That's the only other team that I can think of that used it.
You're right.
I'm sure there's many other people are probably screaming at us like, "Oh, this Parker Bordeaux, probably Slim J used it." But
if so, I'm all. They're going to be my favorite tag team if they do that.
Yeah, you're all in on Harland if that's what happens.
If they do the T gimmick as their finisher, I'm all in. I'm buying a T-shirt. Man. Give me the merch.
I'm gonna turn into dark just to see it, just because of that. Man, oh man. Well, that brings us to the main event. We're at the Ring of Honor World Title on the line, and it's a world title now because it was just defended in London against Zebra Cakes. I forget who he faced. Samoa Joe, the champion, facing off against Homicide, of course, Julius Smokes. And man, this match was I wouldn't call it a work rate match by any means, but it was a fun ass fight. Yeah, it was.
I loved it.
What'd you love about it? Tell me.
I like, as much as I like to watch guys chain wrestle and do some reversals and get stretched, and I love me two guys that are just in there for the violence, that just want to beat the tar out of each other, and when they do it as well as these guys did, it makes it all worthwhile, because that's what this was. They just wanted to beat the hell out of each other. And that's how it was built. That's how you felt it throughout the evening, with the opening salvo from Homicide. And then Joe earlier on was just like, he's, sneak knee striking people. You're like, okay, these guys they just want to fight each other. There's not going to be anything pretty about it. And it was great. It was a fantastic brawl. I love this.
Yeah, and built really well, like you mentioned, throughout the show. And a lot of good psychology amongst all the brawling and the suplexing on the necks that this match was filled with. It's like in the beginning, starts off a bit tame. You got Homicide. He's doing offense on Joe. Joe's in the corner. Homicide, the much smaller man, sitting with forearms, but of course not phasing Joe. So Homicide just pokes him in the eye. That popped me when I saw that.
Yeah.
You gotta do what you gotta do. He's from the streets. I don't know if you heard.
Sure, no, exactly. Brooklyn style.
Yeah, is that what that is?
I don't know. Maybe.
It could be. Sounds like a pizza. But
it's a deli sandwich, you know. So
there it is.
Coleslaw on the side.
Brooklyn style coleslaw. You heard it here first. That's some Canadian shit if I've ever heard it. Poutine eating ass. But we got a Homicide in there, just kicking Joe in the face. Yeah, Yakuza kicks in the corner, face washes. They fight to the outside. So Joe's on the outside. He's kind of recovering from getting kicked in the face. Homicide goes for a baseball slide, but Joe just grabs him and just chucks him into the guardrail. Man, the sound.
Just fantastic. The sound sold it, right? There was like, no, Homicide is dead. There's whatever that sound was, it killed him. It was fantastic. It was just great.
He just kept killing him, man. Joe, because it's the classic Joe spot where he puts the guy in the corner of the guardrails, sits him on a chair and does a face wash. But the way his foot hit Homicide and connected with the sheet metal of the guardrail, again, just more. Just. Whew.
It was sick. Excellent.
Then they get back in the ring. You just got Joe hitting dragon suplexes, German suplexes, just as stiff as can be.
Hang on. Let's build this up properly here, right?
Go for it.
He just waylaid Homicide on the floor, like you said, belly to bellies him on the floor overhead.
Of course,
right?
Yes.
And commentary puts over the fact this is a basketball gymnasium, right?
It sure
is. This is hardwood floor, right? So you're like, oh, holy shit! Homicide is bleeding. Not sure if it's hard way or not, but he's got blood. He's got blood on his hand, like you know. So when he gets back into the ring, Joe is psychotic at this point. Like you said, a German suplex, picks him back up, dragon suplex, picks him up again for another German. You're like, Jesus, and
he's
everyone's
already
on
dead.
their feet. Just stop. Pin the guy. He's done. It was so good.
Yeah. Like the way it built up, it just kept ramping up. Every time he slammed him, he added a bit of intensity to it, a bit of danger to it. It was just, God, this era of Samoa Joe. This is something else, man.
Oh, yeah, it's fantastic.
Current TV champion, Samoa Joe. Crazy. But Homicide eventually fights back. He's a scrappy one after all. It's a tornado DDT in the ring. He sets up a table on the outside, leans it against the guardrail. Joe, they fight outside of the ring. Joe's laid out kind of in front of the table. Homicide does his classic tope con hilo through the second and third ropes, through Joe, through the table.
That was great.
Ooh. It's almost like Joe, it looked like he caught him in a muscle buster, but I don't know. It is what it is. They were both destroyed there, whatever the case is. But then Low Key comes out once again to cheer on Homicide. And because, he's cheering on Homicide in the ring. Joe's got the advantage again. He's kneeing Homicide in the head, just like he did to Moff earlier. Key's like, come on, Homicide, you got to get up. Get the fuck up. And he slaps Homicide in the face. Homicide starts smiling. The facials on this guy is amazing. Starts smiling. He just gets up after being bludgeoned in the head over and over again. Gives Joe a huge Saito suplex. Gives him an ace crusher. Goes to the top. Double stomp. But only a 2 count. Like, man, if I didn't know that Joe had a 2-year run, I would have been like, man, that might be the end of the match. Homicide hits a brain buster on Samoa Joe. Impressive as hell. And then Joe rolls to the floor, and they're really selling this. Like, man, Joe might be actually for real hurt. You know, the old X symbol gimmick.
Brings out the refs.
All the refs coming out, checking on him. And then Joe eventually gets back up. He can barely stand. Homicide sets him up for a superplex, but Joe counters and hits the muscle buster off the second rope. Terrifying, because he didn't flat back bump this muscle buster. It was almost vertical. Like, just how Homicide didn't break his neck here, I'll never know. But of course, that gives Samoa Joe the win. You have also the element, because like Julius Smokes and Low Key were arguing on the outside. I think the story is that maybe that distracted Homicide, but who knows? But Joe retains the title, and just an awesome match overall.
Nothing to complain about. Fantastic main event. Great match with two guys who were hungry, man. Both of them were hungry at this point. They just wanted to wrestle and be the best in the world. It was just fantastic. Highly recommended. Highly recommended.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, this is an era of Ring of Honor, mid 2003, where it's starting to get to the point where it's like, okay, this is some classic Ring of Honor stuff, and definitely recommend this match to anybody listening to this. But then, so after the show, so there's like, I'm watching this, and there's like 2 minutes left, right? And I'm like, oh, the show's probably over. It might be like a promo or something. But then it shows Daniels in the ring after the show. I'm like, oh shit, I forgot there's supposed to be a whole empty arena match fight deal, and then it's a whole thing. I don't know why this tickled me so much. But you got Daniels in the ring. He's like, come on, Joe. He's just in an empty arena. Come on, Joe. And then Joe walks through, and so this chair is set up, right? Like where the crowd was sitting. Mm-hmm. Joe didn't have to run through these chairs to get to the ring, but for whatever reason he does. He just like a bull in a china.
And that's what's important. He chose to do this. He didn't have to. And that's the beauty of it. Joe's like, I'm steamrolling these chairs. No problem.
Yeah. Joe's going to kill these plastic chairs. Mm-hmm. So they have a little brawl in the ring. They're pulled apart very quickly. So I guess building to a future match between those two. Maybe they're two factions. You know, Daniels cuts to Daniels. I guess later he's in his locker room. He's pissed off, and he challenges Joe and his group, Steve Corino and all those guys, to a match. And I think that's at the next show, but sometime soon that'll be happening. And that's how the show closes. So, yeah, Warren, do or die. Did this show do or die?
I think there's enough good stuff on this match to be on this card to be a good one, where you're like, you will enjoy this evening of wrestling. But you know, it's not like one that I would recommend top to bottom. Like, I think the main event is special. I think Reckless Youth, and I keep forgetting his shoot name, Tom Carter, mm-hmm. and Matt Stryker delivered a fantastic match. I liked it a little more than the main event, but that's not crapping on the main event. That's just how good that other match was. But you know, but there is, you know, skippable stuff. There's stuff that you can easily pass over. Overall, mm-hmm. though, not a bad show. Not a bad show. I wouldn't call it great, but there's two great matches on this card here that you can absolutely just tune in for. You know, you come for the main event and stay for the CM Punk stuff. You know, because he's involved in this match quite a bit, and he's entertaining on commentary as well. You know, come and enjoy Andy Anderson and John Walters. What was his name? John Walters.
Gives a shit. It. John Connors, yeah. That's it.
Come and enjoy all these things.
Yeah. Definitely, it felt kind of like a transitionary show, but it was a good one. I mean, the main event stood out as something special, and so Tom Carter versus Matt Stryker, definitely making strides in building that pure division. But
absolutely. And yeah, transitionary, I think is the I think it's a good way to put it, where it ended up, you know, it ended up setting a lot of seeds for future Ring of Honor matches and some big time matches as well. So yeah, for sure. Yeah, got the tap out match coming up. You got faction warfare. You got Iceberg. I'm sure he's going to be doing more stuff in the future. So that's what people are going to be paying to see. That's what I think.
Can't wait to see Iceberg pop up in more promotions with various acronyms on his forehead and thumbtacks.
Yeah, exactly. God, I'd love to know how long he did that gimmick. I'd really like to know how long he did that. Maybe it was that one time, but jeez.
I think it's been long enough to where I think you can steal it. Maybe have
Should I call him?
WHS on your forehead. Of course, those acronyms representing the Warren Hayes Show, which once again, thank you, Warren, for making the time to check out the show. Come on, talk about it. Where can everybody find you and listen to you and watch you and tickle your nipples?
Well, look, there's a couple of things out of that you can do fairly easily. Others might be a little more difficult. But thank you very much, Kyle, again, for having me on. This was a blast. It was an absolute... I love going... Having excuses to go back and watch retro wrestling anytime, man. I appreciate it. Thank you so much for the invitation.
Yes, sir.
As far as myself, youtube.com/Mr. Warren Hayes is where I record my podcast live every Thursday night at 9 p.m. Eastern. So you can come join me there. You can listen to the audio afterwards on demand. And it's also available in podcast format on all your favorite podcast apps as well. So I basically review the week in wrestling. We talk about things that happened, things that interested me. So you can check that out. Plus, it just so happens right now, it is New Japan's big event of the year, the G1 Climax 32. It's that time of year. It's G1 season. Started just a couple of days ago. So I will also be doing my coverage of the G1, where I combine 2 nights of action into one review. So you can come and check. You can subscribe to the channel and get those, or subscribe on your favorite podcast app as well. So I'll be doing all of that right up until August 18 is when the finals are. So yeah, there you go. That's what I'm doing.
Yeah, man. I enjoyed your Climax preview. I just finished night 1, so I'm a bit behind. But I'm getting back into It's been a few years since I've really been balls deep into New Japan. But I like the field of the Climax this year, so it should be pretty interesting.
Night 2 has 2 great matches. There's 2 great matches on night 2, and it's not the Yano match.
Once again, thank you to Warren from the Mr. Warren Hayes Show for joining me on this lovely, lovely time. Jumping back in time in Ring of Honor. We got Ring of Honor pay-per-view coming up this weekend, so it's fun to kind of discuss the early days, the foundational days, some may say. Go check out Warren wherever you listen to podcasts, as well as YouTube. Does live shows. It's a hoot. It's a hoot. Love a war dog. And apronbump.com for all my full episodes. Apron Bump on Twitter. Been posting a lot of TikToks lately. Go join me on the talk. All that in the description as well. And yeah, it's about all Daddy has for you today. Have a lovely rest of your week. I never really say that. I kind of just talk about the wrestling and then I dip out on you. But I really do hope that you have a lovely... You see, it's weird because you might not be listening to this on Wednesday. You might be listening to this on a Sunday. So it's like, well, do I want you to have a whole week? That's great. Not really. I don't like you that much. Have a few days that are good. That's what I'm saying. Any hoozle, I think that's about covers it. Thank you guys so much for listening. I love you all. I'm hard.
And the hardest, talk around and disregard it. Strip you off the ground, show you what hard is. Standing strong and proud, nothing I can. Let's get it.